Hi, it's time for Module 6. This is the last lap. You're almost there. You're making great progress. Let me encourage you to finish strong. You can do this really well. So let's take a look at what's coming up in Module 6. I'm going to skip over the learning outcomes and just go to the learning activities because they correspond really closely. So the first one is an assignment on engaging culture as Christians, and it's called a response journal. You set this up by watching some clips from a video series about how Christians engage with the world. Then you're going to find a real-life example of a Christian person or business that has as its mission a focus on engaging a particular area of culture. So that's very wide. It's specifically not a church or a ministry. So if you thought really big, you could think about businesses that have made it clear that their ownership is Christian, Chick-fil-A or Hobby Lobby. You could think in terms of social service agencies where Christians are often stealthily living the gospel, even though the mission of the organization may not be to preach the gospel. They may do something with orphans, they may relocate refugees, they may provide disaster relief. Or you can just think of a Christian who is very committed to living out his or her faith in the world and engaged with the world. I think of one that lives here in Chicago. He doesn't do it anymore, but he used to do movie reviews on Channel 9 in Chicago. Did I say here in Chicago? Here in Grand Rapids? He lives here in Grand Rapids. He used to be on TV in Chicago. Very much a Christian, but Channel 9 wasn't looking for a Christian take on the movies. He was engaging the culture that way. So someone that fits that, and you're going to need to do an interview. If it's an individual, you have to interview that individual. If it's an organization, someone in the organization. And then do a brief report, 2 to 3 pages. Name the person or organization, talk what kind of work they do, who they serve, and who did you interview, and how would you describe their passion in this endeavor? And how does this organization demonstrate the reality that our salvation is for the life of the world? That phrase comes from the movie clips. So God didn't save us just to end it in ourselves. We're supposed to do something for someone else. That's what this is about, writing up someone or some organization that does that well. Now the second, oops, gotta go back up here, sorry about that. The second assignment is kind of similar, but here you're going to come up with, you're going to write about 2 examples of cultural engagement. And these are specifically a church. How has a church done a good job of cultural engagement? And how has another church, or maybe the same church in a different effort, not done a very good job? These shouldn't be too hard to find. You might have to do a little research on them, but post that in the discussion, and we'll have some good give and take on what makes good cultural engagement. Maybe we won't even agree about what was good and what was not good. But again, read all the instructions. You can do that for yourself. Then the great big deal this week, a personal philosophy of cultural engagement. This is something you're going to come back to later in the program and revise. So this isn't a perfect finished product yet, but it should reflect research, probably some of the research you've done already for this class. It should reflect the skills that you've been building in this class: biblical worldview, critical thinking, library research, analyzing culture, and you're going to take those skills and apply them to your own personal philosophy of cultural engagement. Just to kind of give you an overview, you can read all the instructions for yourself, and there is a rubric. Be sure to view the rubric up here, because actually the same rubric will be used now and later in the course, so we're kind of gauging progress here. But to give you an overview, and some of this is in Crouch's book. I hope you're right up to date on reading Crouch. He's really good. I really like him, but he echoes an earlier author. In fact, later in the book, he talks about his echoes of that author. But the different approaches that Christians have taken to culture. If you think of monks and hermits, they hid from culture. Just go in and close the doors and stay completely out of culture. Or if you think of the church of the Middle Ages, when the church was allied with most of the governments of Europe, Christianity, and specifically the organized church, was over culture and trying to control culture. And many would say that in the United States of America, for years without an organization, the Christians were controlling culture in that regard. Others see culture as warfare. That's really common in our day. Christians over here with the right ideas and people over there in the culture with the wrong ideas, and we're fighting them over abortion. We're fighting them over same-sex marriage. We're fighting them over whatever the issue of the day is. Alcohol in the early part of the 20th century, various things like that. So Christians away from culture, Christians ruling over culture, Christians fighting with culture. Christians imitating culture. One of the things that goes on in our day is, well, okay, if the culture has a filmmaking industry, we have to make a Christian filmmaking industry. And if culture has a recording industry, we have to make a Christian recording industry. And if culture has magazines, we have to have Christian news magazines. So we mirror the culture. There's other relationships. You've read about them in Crouch. What's your philosophy? And what is it based on? How is it based in the Bible? How is it based in good research? Put it all together and write a good paper, and put your major emphasis on this paper this week. Glad to hear from you. Glad to help you out. Feel free to send me an email or give me a call, and I hope you have just a great week.